Ilias stepped onto the alien platform, his boots clicking softly against the polished metal floor. The hall stretched wider than any human building he had ever seen, soaring up into invisible heights as if it wanted to touch the stars themselves. Every surface shimmered with alien light, a mix of cold silver and faint blue that made the human soldiers who had accompanied him squint. He was far from Earth now, on a planet dominated by an advanced alien civilization that regarded humans as fragile, unpredictable, and somewhat amusing. At the far end of the hall, a figure waited. Lady Violia, High Noble of the planet's ruling council, stood perfectly still, her tall frame draped in flowing garments that reflected the hall's light like liquid metal. Her face was angular, sharp, and elegant, with eyes the color of molten amber that seemed to pierce directly into anyone who dared to meet them. Ilias had heard stories about her, how she never tolerated weakness, how she expected total obedience from those around her, and how even other aliens approached her with careful respect, often trembling at her presence. Ilias squared his shoulders and walked forward, careful to maintain the calm, measured pace he had been taught at the academy. He had learned that diplomacy often relied on subtle gestures, on tone and timing more than on words alone. Humans were new to this planet, and one wrong move could trigger hostility, or worse. "Commander Ilias," Violia said, her voice calm but cold, carrying a weight that seemed to press down on the entire hall. "You have been sent to negotiate after your people disrupted one of our mining operations. Speak." The disruption was unintentional, but we hope to resolve the matter peacefully and create a path for cooperation. It was not strength or firepower that made them remarkable. It was persistence, creativity, and courage. For several minutes, they discussed trade rights, resource agreements, and cultural protocols. Ilias found himself carefully navigating each topic, knowing that alien words and human words carried different meanings. One mistake could be interpreted as aggression or worse, insult. Then, as the conversation turned toward joint protection of resource sites, Ilias made a choice that would change everything. "If we are to truly protect our peoples and work together, Lady Violia, I offer myself as your partner, your ally. As your husband in the human sense, I mean." Humans nearby stiffened, unsure whether their commander had crossed a line that could end in disaster. Violia's eyes widened, though her face remained calm. She stared at him in silence, her mouth slightly parted, as if she were trying to process not just his words but the audacity behind them. In her culture, no one had ever dared to address her with such a personal claim without permission. To claim her as a wife, without permission, was an insult so extreme that it demanded public retribution. But she did not move, did not shout, did not order him removed or killed. She only stared. Ilias felt his pulse quicken. He had not expected compliance, but he had hoped that his confidence and sincerity might carry him past this moment. He took a deep breath, holding his gaze steady, refusing to show fear. Humans often faced beings far stronger or faster, and in those moments courage mattered more than muscle. The hall remained silent for several minutes. Other alien nobles whispered quietly to each other, exchanging glances that Ilias could not understand but could feel. Curiosity mixed with outrage hung in the air. He tried to imagine what it must be like to stand in Violia's place, to have countless beings around you who feared or admired you, and then to have someone from a distant, lesser species speak boldly against tradition. Finally, Violia spoke. Her voice was quiet but sharp. "Do you understand what you have said? I intend it as a mark of respect and commitment, not offense. I wish for our peoples to work together, and I believe partnership is the strongest way to achieve that. Perhaps human traditions differ from yours, Lady Violia. We value trust and partnership. Strength comes not only from power, but from respect, loyalty, and courage. I believe those are the qualities needed to protect both our peoples." Around them, the council members shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to react. Some seemed insulted that he dared speak in such terms. Others whispered that maybe humans were not entirely without merit. The silence stretched. Then, without warning, Violia turned sharply on her heel and motioned for him to follow. "Come with me. If you truly believe what you say, you will need to prove it. Words alone will not suffice." Violia led him through twisting corridors and up stairways that seemed to float, suspended by alien technology beyond human understanding. Finally, they reached a room lined with mirrors and panels of glowing symbols. It was a private chamber, where she tested potential allies or subordinates for their adaptability, intelligence, and composure under pressure. You will remain here until you complete the first challenge, Violia said, gesturing to a device that projected a holographic map of the planet. Many have failed. Most humans would not last 5 minutes. His heart did not race with panic. It raced with excitement. He had learned to see patterns where others saw confusion, to think in solutions where others saw only obstacles. He leaned over the map and began plotting a path, considering every possible hazard. Violia watched silently, her expression unreadable. Around him, he felt the weight of centuries of alien skepticism pressing down. The moment demanded that he succeed not for himself, but to demonstrate that humans could be worthy partners. Hours passed. He made mistakes, corrected them, adapted to unexpected changes, and improvised with ingenuity the aliens would never expect. Violia remained in the shadows, occasionally offering a nod or subtle adjustment to the challenge. By the time the first test concluded, he was exhausted, but alive and, more importantly, successful. She finally spoke, her voice quiet but commanding. "You have done well for a human. Do not think this excuses your audacity, but it proves something I did not expect. You possess qualities I have rarely seen. I intend to continue proving that humans can be reliable partners, not just in challenges, but in the greater tasks of cooperation and protection. One misstep could cost more than your honor. It could cost your life." Humans had been underestimated yet again, and once again that underestimation could become their advantage. He had not merely survived. He had impressed, even unsettled, one of the most powerful beings on this planet. The council chamber awaited their next meeting, the room where whispers of outrage and fascination would grow. Ilias knew he had made enemies, but he had also planted seeds of respect. And in human history, seeds often grew into forests that could not be ignored. As night fell over the alien capital, Ilias stood on a balcony overlooking the sprawling city. The lights glimmered like stars below, but he felt a spark of his own, the spark of challenge, of courage, and of a human will that refused to be crushed, no matter how alien the world or how proud the opponent. He turned to the approaching shadow of Violia, who had come to observe him. Her presence was imposing, yet this time it carried a hint of something new, a possibility. A recognition that humans could be more than he had expected. And in that moment, Ilias understood one simple truth. The path would be difficult, but humanity had never shied from impossible paths. They adapted, they persevered, and they survived where others would fail. The game had begun, and the first move had already been made. Ilias woke to the pale glow of the alien sun spilling through the high windows of the quarters assigned to him. The room was minimalist, but unlike human simplicity, every surface held a purpose. Panels glimmered softly, responding to motion and touch, but Ilias ignored them, his mind replaying the events of the previous day. He had faced the first test. He had survived and impressed Lady Violia, though she did not admit it outright. Her silent observation had been more revealing than any words. Humans often relied on intuition, and Ilias had learned quickly. Some victories were won not by triumph, but by patience and careful attention. A soft sound at the door drew his attention. The panel slid open, and a small hovering drone delivered a note in an alien script. Ilias studied it carefully, using the pattern recognition training he had mastered over years of human schooling. Slowly, the symbols began to make sense. "You are required to report to my chambers immediately. Your actions will be observed. Failure to obey promptly will result in disqualification." Every hallway, every turn, seemed designed to remind humans that they were far from home, far from the familiar, and far from the control they were accustomed to. When he arrived at Lady Violia's chambers, she was already there, seated on a raised platform of smooth black stone. The light from the alien city below cast her face in sharp shadows. Ilias could feel the weight of her gaze the moment he entered. "You have done well for a human," she began, her voice measured. "But today you will face challenges designed to test more than your mind. You will be tested on endurance, composure, and your ability to follow or bend our customs when necessary." Humans had a saying, "Fortune favors the brave." He reminded himself that being unafraid was not the same as being reckless. Patience and observation often won battles before they began. Violia's hands moved gracefully over the controls beside her, and a holographic map of the palace appeared in the center of the room. Rooms shifted, barriers moved, and paths that had appeared solid moments ago became impassable. "You will navigate this maze, find the 3 keys hidden within, and return them to me. You may encounter obstacles, guardians, and puzzles. You will have no guidance beyond your instincts and intellect. Every corner, every hallway seemed designed to confuse and intimidate. He could feel the eyes of the alien nobles watching from the shadows, eager to see a human fail. Yet he did not flinch. Humans had faced storms, predators, and adversaries far stronger than themselves. They had survived not by relying solely on strength, but by using creativity, perseverance, and courage. The first obstacle appeared almost immediately. A narrow hallway shimmered and then transformed into a solid wall of light. Elias paused, examining the energy pattern. It pulsed in regular intervals, a rhythm he could decipher. He stepped forward when the pulse weakened, moving through the light with careful precision. It was a simple principle, but it required attention, timing, and courage to proceed without triggering the alarm. A few minutes later, he reached a chamber filled with floating spheres. Each sphere contained a holographic puzzle, symbols, lights, and shifting patterns that seemed impossible to interpret. He focused, observing the motions and recognizing a subtle pattern. Using logic and trial and error, he solved the first sphere, then the second, and finally the third. Each solution caused a small mechanism to click, signaling progress. Violia watched silently from her perch. Elias could feel her scrutiny, but he did not let it intimidate him. He had learned that humans often thrived under pressure, that calm observation and problem-solving could turn even overwhelming odds into opportunity. The final key was hidden in a room guarded by a massive alien construct. It resembled a human idea of a soldier, but far taller, faster, and stronger. Its single amber eye glowed, tracking his every move. Elias did not panic. He had learned to read movements, to anticipate patterns, and to use his surroundings to his advantage. He dodged, rolled, and timed his steps, luring the construct into a sequence that allowed him to grab the key without triggering its attack mechanisms. It was delicate work, requiring intuition as much as precision. Humans had a gift for improvisation, and Elias relied on it now. By the time he returned to Violia's chamber, he was exhausted, sweat dripping down his brow. Yet he carried the 3 keys, the proof that he had succeeded where most aliens might have failed. Violia's amber eyes met his, and for the first time, Elias saw something unexpected, a flicker of respect. You have accomplished what few could. Humans are unpredictable. Some might call it foolishness, others brilliance. You may have qualities I did not expect. Trust is not earned in one day, nor in a single test. You will face more challenges, and the next will be even harder. He thought about Earth far away and the people who had trained him to face impossible odds. He felt the steady pulse of courage and determination that had carried humans through countless trials over centuries. Violia spoke again, her tone deliberate. I will assign you a task that requires more than intelligence. It requires judgment, moral choice, and the ability to influence others. You will enter the council chamber and present a solution to a dispute between 2 alien factions. Failure will not be punished by death, but it will end your chance of proving humans worth in my eyes. He would apply the same principle here. The council chamber was vast, filled with hundreds of beings. Elias felt the tension immediately. Whispers ran through the room as he stepped forward. Some aliens sneered, others looked genuinely curious, and a few even seemed doubtful that a human could comprehend the complexities of their culture. He listened carefully as the dispute was presented. 2 factions argued over resource allocation, each claiming precedence based on ancient laws and traditions. Each faction's leader was eloquent, passionate, and skilled at persuasion. Elias did not interrupt immediately. Instead, he observed. He noted patterns of argument, inconsistencies, and areas where compromise could exist. Then he spoke, his voice calm but firm. Honorable leaders, I understand that tradition is important and fairness must be preserved. But the purpose of resources is not solely to follow rules. It is to benefit all who rely on them. If we adjust allocations to account for both historical claims and current needs, both factions can prosper. This solution respects tradition and ensures survival. He relied on human qualities, reason, empathy, and flexibility to persuade beings who had never encountered a human in such a role. Violia observed silently, her arms crossed. Slowly, a shadow of a smile touched her lips. Elias' approach was unlike anything she had expected. He did not dominate, he did not demand, he did not belittle. Instead, he understood the value of collaboration. By the end of the council session, a resolution had been reached. The factions, while initially reluctant, agreed to implement his plan, impressed by the clarity and fairness of his reasoning. Elias had succeeded, not through force or alien intellect, but through distinctly human creativity and judgment. When the council adjourned, Violia met him in a quiet corridor. "You have done well today. Not perfect, but well. You demonstrate qualities that are rare even among my own people. I am not accustomed to acknowledging this lightly. Perhaps there is merit to your kind after all, but know this, your journey is far from over. The next challenge will test your endurance in ways you cannot yet imagine. Are you prepared? You are unlike any human I have encountered. I will admit that is intriguing. More than survived, he had impressed, learned, and demonstrated that human qualities, courage, ingenuity, and empathy, were valuable even to the most advanced and proud alien society. And for the first time he sensed that Lady Violia might see him not just as a foreigner or an annoyance, but as a being capable of partnership. The human spark, once again, had made its presence felt. Outside, the alien city glimmered in the twilight, and Elias knew that the real challenges were only beginning. Yet he was ready. Humans thrived in impossible circumstances, and he intended to show that even in a world that doubted him, he could persevere, succeed, and lead by example. The game had become more complex and the stakes higher, but Elias did not fear the unknown. He welcomed it, knowing that humans often succeeded where others expected them to fail, and that in doing so they could change the very course of events. The next morning, Elias awoke to a new challenge. Lady Violia had sent a message ahead. The day's trials would take place in the Hall of Challenges, a vast arena designed for both physical and mental tests. The hall was legendary across the alien world. It had hosted beings of extraordinary strength, intelligence, and cunning. Few had ever completed its tests, and even fewer had done so without aid. Elias rose quickly, feeling the familiar pulse of anticipation. Humans were not the strongest nor the fastest, but they had something many beings underestimated: creativity, adaptability, and perseverance. Today, he would rely on every ounce of that human advantage. When he arrived at the hall, the enormity of the space struck him. The ceiling seemed endless, disappearing into the shadows above. Platforms floated in midair, some spinning slowly, others shifting unpredictably. Doors opened and closed without pattern, revealing glimpses of alien guardians, puzzles, and obstacles. Aliens from different factions watched from observation decks, their expressions a mix of curiosity, disbelief, and disdain. Violia stood on a raised dais at the far end of the arena, her presence commanding absolute attention. "Welcome to the Hall of Challenges, human," she said. "Here, you will face obstacles designed for beings far superior to you in strength, speed, and instinct. Success requires more than brute force. It requires intellect, intuition, and the willingness to adapt. Fail and you will survive, but you will not impress me further." The goal was clear: reach the other side without falling while avoiding hidden traps along the way. Elias studied the platforms, noting patterns in their rotation. He measured the timing of each spin, anticipating the moments when a leap would be safe. One by one, he stepped forward, relying on balance, precision, and observation. When a platform tilted unexpectedly, he used his momentum to adjust, landing safely on the next. Humans were not naturally agile like some alien species, but he had learned to use thought and timing as tools of survival. Halfway across, a series of energy pulses shot from the walls. Elias ducked and rolled, keeping his focus sharp. One misstep and he would have plunged into the void. But he kept moving, relying on instincts honed through years of training and countless drills. Sweat glistened on his brow, but he did not falter. When he reached the other side, he found a new challenge waiting: a puzzle of lights, symbols, and shifting panels. It was unlike any logic problem he had faced before. The symbols moved as if alive, constantly rearranging themselves. He paused, taking a deep breath. Humans had the unique ability to see patterns in chaos, to find solutions where others only saw confusion. Elias observed carefully, noting that each panel reacted to pressure and alignment. He began experimenting, testing combinations, and adjusting based on immediate feedback. Minutes turned into an hour, and the alien spectators began to murmur, surprised at the human's persistence. He failed several times, but each failure taught him something new. Finally, the puzzle clicked into place. Lights flashed, doors opened, and a low hum signaled success. Elias exhaled, feeling a surge of accomplishment. One more challenge remained before the final trial. The last test was the most daunting: an encounter with a guardian construct. Towering over him, it resembled a humanoid figure but was far larger, with metallic limbs and glowing amber eyes. Its movements were precise and relentless, designed to overwhelm and intimidate. Many beings had failed here, relying on strength alone. Elias studied its patterns. The construct moved predictably, but fast enough to be lethal if he mistimed a step. He relied on human ingenuity. Instead of attacking directly, he used the environment, floating platforms, hanging cables, and even shadows to distract and mislead the construct. Every movement was calculated. Every step required intuition as much as timing. At one point, the construct cornered him, forcing a daring leap to a narrow platform. He landed with a thud, but the platform shook violently. For a moment, it seemed he would fall. He stabilized himself, adjusting his weight carefully, and used the momentum to move toward the Guardian's weak point. With a combination of speed, observation, and improvisation, he disabled its attack mechanism and retrieved the key it guarded. The crowd erupted in quiet disbelief. Humans were not known for such skill in physical confrontations among the aliens, yet here he stood, triumphant through creativity, adaptability, and sheer determination. Violia descended from her dais, her expression unreadable but her eyes glowing with a new light. You have survived the Hall of Challenges. Few beings have done so, and fewer still without aid. You are persistent, clever, and unpredictable. I will admit, I did not expect a human to succeed. I hope this proves that humans can offer value beyond what others may assume. The next trial will test your capacity to work with others, an area where humans are often underestimated. Inside, 2 alien representatives awaited him, each holding a claim to a disputed resource. The instructions were simple: negotiate a solution acceptable to both parties. The challenge was not force, but diplomacy, patience, and understanding. The aliens were immediately hostile, arguing over centuries-old grievances. Each side insisted on their entitlement and refused to yield. Elias listened, carefully noting their priorities, their fears, and the inconsistencies in their reasoning. He did not interrupt, allowing them to speak fully, demonstrating patience, a quality humans often mastered in tense situations. When it was his turn, he spoke calmly. I understand that each of you values these resources highly. Your concerns are valid. Yet the purpose of resources is not only tradition, but survival and prosperity. If we find a solution that addresses both historical claims and current needs, both parties will benefit. This approach does not dismiss your traditions. It respects them while ensuring continued success. Elias continued, outlining practical steps and contingencies, demonstrating human flexibility and empathy. He anticipated objections and offered compromises that allowed each party to save face. By the end, both sides had agreed to a plan. The human had succeeded where many of their own kind would have failed, not through strength, but through intellect, empathy, and courage. Violia observed silently, her expression softening slightly. You have demonstrated qualities that are rare, even among my own people: resilience, intelligence, and the ability to navigate complex social dynamics. These are qualities humans possess when they are allowed to act beyond the constraints others impose upon them. I hope to continue demonstrating that humans can be trusted, capable partners. Each step will grow more difficult, testing not only your mind and body, but your character. As he left the Hall of Challenges, he reflected on what had been accomplished. He had relied on uniquely human traits: observation, ingenuity, empathy, and perseverance, to succeed where raw strength and alien instinct might have failed. He had demonstrated that humans were not merely fragile beings, but capable, resilient, and adaptable allies. And somewhere in the quiet observation of Lady Violia, he sensed a change. She had begun to see not just a human, but a potential partner, someone who could contribute in ways that defied expectation. Elias knew the road ahead would be far more difficult. Challenges awaited that would push him to his limits physically, mentally, and morally. But he was ready. Humans were defined not by ease or comfort, but by the courage to face impossible odds and the determination to persevere. And in this alien world, surrounded by beings who had never faced a human like him, Elias would continue to prove that humanity's strength was not in dominance, but in heart, mind, and spirit. The morning air was crisp, carrying a strange, metallic scent that reminded Elias he was far from Earth. Lady Violia had summoned him to a new trial, one that promised to challenge more than his physical skill or intellect. This time, she had chosen a test that was subtle, intricate, and deeply personal, a trial of judgment, morality, and emotional intelligence. He entered a large chamber, its walls lined with translucent panels showing countless alien faces, faces of those who had failed before him. Each seemed frozen in judgment, staring silently as if to warn him. The atmosphere was heavy, but Elias did not hesitate. Humans had often faced impossible odds and survived. Fear was a choice, and courage was a practice. Virelia's voice echoed through the chamber, calm yet commanding. Today, human, you will mediate a dispute that has the potential to destabilize a region of this planet. Two factions are in conflict over territory, resources, and historical claims. Your task is to propose a solution acceptable to both. But understand this, the situation is complex. There are no simple answers. You may encounter deception, manipulation, and even hostility. Your decisions will be observed and evaluated, not only for success but for wisdom and judgment. The first, a tall and angular figure with green-tinted scales, spoke in a booming voice. Humans are weak. What could you possibly know of our needs? Leave us to settle this ourselves. You are not welcome here if you intend to interfere. I will listen first, and then I will offer a solution that respects your history, your customs, and your present needs. If I listen carefully and consider each of your needs, perhaps we can find a solution that upholds your customs while addressing the problems of the present. He noted contradictions, misunderstandings, and overlooked possibilities. The factions attempted to confuse him, presenting exaggerated claims, false evidence, and even threats. Yet Elias did not respond with anger or fear. He took notes, considered the motivations behind each statement, and maintained an even tone. Humans often thrived under pressure because they relied on reason, empathy, and perseverance rather than raw intimidation. Finally, after hours of careful observation and reasoning, Elias spoke. I propose that the territory in question be shared based on current needs rather than past claims alone. Resources will be divided according to population, ability to maintain them, and mutual benefit. Furthermore, a joint council will be established, with representatives from both factions, to manage disputes and ensure transparency. This plan does not erase history or tradition. It honors both factions while creating a sustainable path forward. Humans often excelled at patience, understanding that influence was gained by listening as much as speaking. Finally, the smaller faction leader nodded. Your proposal is interesting. It is not perfect, but it is logical. It considers both sides. Yet it is the first suggestion that addresses both needs without dismissing either. I will consider it. Yet you have demonstrated something far more valuable: judgment, patience, and the ability to influence others without force. These are qualities rare even among my own people. I hope this shows that humans can contribute in ways beyond strength, that understanding and reasoning are also forms of power. It is also about moral courage, the willingness to make difficult decisions, even when they are unpopular. Tomorrow, you will face a situation that will test your ethics in ways you cannot yet imagine. Are you prepared? I will meet the challenge. Humans were trained to consider consequences, and Elias began to weigh the options carefully. Some choices were easy. Minor adjustments in resource allocation caused minimal conflict. Others were more difficult. One faction demanded control of a critical water source, while denying it would spark outrage. Elias considered every variable, every potential reaction, and every cultural nuance. He made decisions that were fair, even when unpopular, explaining each with clarity and reason. Humans were accustomed to finding solutions in complex systems, balancing multiple outcomes simultaneously. His explanations emphasized collaboration, compromise, and long-term stability rather than immediate gain or personal advantage. Virelia observed silently, but her expression revealed a rare emotion: curiosity. She had seen many beings fail this test because they chose selfish advantage, fear, or aggression. Elias chose reasoning, empathy, and courage. The human qualities she had dismissed as minor or fragile were, in fact, powerful. Hours passed. By the end of the trial, the simulation had reached an outcome acceptable to both factions. Conflict had been minimized, resources distributed fairly, and a path for future cooperation established. Elias had succeeded where others had failed, not through force, but through intellect, observation, and moral clarity. Virelia finally spoke. You have done what few could. You have shown intelligence, courage, and moral judgment. Humans are capable of more than I believed. I will admit, I was wrong to underestimate your species. You have demonstrated qualities that make you a valuable partner, not merely a human envoy. Yet understand this, trust and respect are earned gradually. There is still much to prove, and your next challenge will not only test your skills but your ability to maintain your principles under extreme pressure. They thrived in the face of adversity, adapted to new situations, and often excelled where others had failed. The trials so far had tested his mind, body, and judgment, but he knew that the greatest challenges were yet to come. As he left the chamber, he reflected on what had been achieved. The factions had been guided toward cooperation. The Hall of Challenges had tested his endurance, intellect, and creativity. Now, he had demonstrated that humans could act with fairness, wisdom, and courage even when faced with beings far stronger, faster, or more experienced. And somewhere in the quiet observation of Lady Violia, he sensed a subtle but important shift. She had begun to see him not merely as a human, but as a being capable of leadership, judgment, and partnership. That recognition, though unspoken, was perhaps the greatest reward of all. Outside, the alien city shimmered under a pale sun, and Elias walked with the steady confidence of someone who understood that humans often succeeded where others expected them to fail. Challenges were opportunities, and he was prepared to seize them. The path ahead was uncertain, the stakes higher than ever, but Elias did not waver. He was a human, and humans were defined not by weakness, but by their courage, intellect, and persistence. No matter what trials awaited, he would face them, adapt, and persevere. And in that moment, the partnership between human and alien, once unthinkable, began to take shape. One built on respect, trust, and the undeniable strength of uniquely human qualities. The sun had barely risen over the alien city, casting long shadows across the palace courtyard. Today was not just another trial. Today, Elias would face the culmination of every test he had endured, the ultimate challenge designed to measure intellect, courage, morality, and the ability to inspire others. Lady Violia had summoned him early, signaling the importance of the day. As he walked toward the central plaza, Elias noticed the city stirring unusually early. Beings from all factions, nobles and commoners alike, lined the streets, their expressions a mixture of curiosity, apprehension, and expectation. News of the human who had survived the Hall of Challenges, who had mediated disputes, and who had demonstrated judgment beyond his species had spread quickly. Many were skeptical, but all were watching. Violia awaited him on a raised platform at the center of the plaza. Her presence commanded silence. She had dressed in formal regalia, her every movement precise and authoritative. Elias approached and bowed respectfully. "Lady Violia, I am ready for whatever challenge you have prepared." It is not merely a challenge of skill, nor solely of intellect or morality. It is a test of leadership, trust, and the ability to unify beings who have long been divided. You will address the council of this planet, as well as its people, to propose a new path, one that ensures peace, cooperation, and the recognition of humanity as a worthy partner. Succeed, and you will not only prove your personal worth, but elevate your species in the eyes of all who witness this day. He was escorted to the center of the plaza, where a circular stage had been prepared. Around him, representatives from every faction of the planet gathered. Some were skeptical, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. Others were curious, whispering to each other about the human who had defied expectations. Elias inhaled deeply. He knew that fear or hesitation would be seen as weakness. Confidence, clarity, and honesty would command respect. He began to speak, his voice carrying across the plaza. "Honorable leaders and citizens of this planet, I am a human. My people are new here, unfamiliar, and often underestimated. Yet we come with the same hopes and desires as you: peace, cooperation, and a future where our peoples can thrive together. I have learned your ways, observed your customs, and faced your tests not as a conqueror but as a partner. Today, I stand before you not to claim power, but to propose collaboration. Our histories may be different, our abilities distinct, and our perspectives unique. Yet these differences are not weaknesses, they are strengths. Together, we can achieve outcomes that neither species could accomplish alone. We can share knowledge, resources, and protection, ensuring that both our peoples prosper. This is not a call for dominance or submission, but for respect, trust, and shared purpose." He addressed potential objections before they could be raised, showing adaptability and foresight. As he spoke, he noticed subtle shifts in the crowd. Skeptics paused, whispers softened, and curious eyes widened. Humans had a rare ability to inspire through honesty and clarity, qualities that even the most advanced alien species sometimes lacked. Elias spoke of trust, emphasizing that partnership was built on mutual respect, not force. He spoke of courage, showing that facing the unknown required resolve and integrity. He spoke of human adaptability, demonstrating that creativity and empathy were as powerful as speed or strength. When he finished, a tense silence fell over the plaza. Aliens exchanged glances, some skeptical, others clearly impressed. Elias remained calm, understanding that humans often succeeded by allowing others to see the value of their words and actions over time. Finally, Violia stepped forward. "You have spoken with wisdom, courage, and clarity. You have demonstrated qualities that are rare even among my own kind: perseverance, insight, and integrity. Humans are often underestimated, yet you have shown that your species is capable of leadership, partnership, and moral courage. For this, I acknowledge you not only as a worthy ally but as a partner in the future of this planet." Aliens from all factions stood, some hesitant, others enthusiastic, but all recognizing that something remarkable had occurred. A human, someone from a species they had considered fragile, had earned respect through intellect, empathy, and courage alone. Elias inclined his head toward Violia. "Thank you, Lady Violia. I hope this is only the beginning of cooperation between our peoples, and that together we can build a future where trust, respect, and ingenuity guide our actions. You have earned a place not just beside me, but within the greater council of this planet. This is recognition that your actions and the values of your species are worth acknowledging and respecting." Aliens who had doubted humans now whispered among themselves, discussing how a species they once underestimated could demonstrate so much wisdom and courage. Elias realized that he had not only proven himself, but also altered perceptions of humanity across an entire world. Later, in private, Violia approached him. "Commander Elias, you have exceeded all expectations. You have demonstrated intellect, morality, and courage in ways I did not anticipate. You have earned my respect and perhaps my trust. Trust and respect are earned through actions, and I will continue to prove that humanity is worthy of both." The journey had been long and difficult, but every challenge had demonstrated uniquely human qualities: courage under pressure, empathy in decision-making, and ingenuity when faced with impossible odds. Humans had survived countless trials on Earth, and now, even on a distant planet among beings who once doubted them, they had succeeded once more. Days later, a grand ceremony was held in the palace. Violia publicly acknowledged Elias as a partner and representative of humanity. She praised his intellect, moral clarity, and courage, officially establishing a new human-alien alliance. Aliens who had once mocked or doubted humans now regarded them with newfound respect. Elias had transformed not only perceptions but possibilities. During the ceremony, Violia approached him privately. Her expression softened, and for the first time she allowed a rare smile. "I did not expect you to succeed. Humans are capable of more than I believed, and you personally have proven that courage, reasoning, and persistence can surpass strength and experience. I will not forget this lesson." "Thank you, Lady Violia. I hope our partnership serves as a model for future cooperation between our peoples. Together, humans and aliens can achieve what neither could accomplish alone." Elias had not relied on dominance, deception, or force. He had succeeded through distinctly human qualities: ingenuity, empathy, courage, and persistence. And in that moment, a partnership began that could reshape the future. Not just a human and an alien noble, but humanity itself, acknowledged and respected across an entire world. Violia's trust, once difficult to earn, had been secured. Elias' courage and intellect had proved that humans were capable of rising to challenges far beyond what others believed possible. As the sun set over the alien city, casting long, golden shadows across the palace, Elias stood beside Violia on the balcony. He looked down at the city that had once seemed so alien and intimidating, now filled with beings who would no longer underestimate humanity. "You have changed my perspective," Violia said quietly. "Humans are not weak. They are remarkable. That is who we are." And in that partnership, both human and alien understood a simple truth. When respect, trust, and collaboration guide action, even the most improbable alliances can succeed, and even the most underestimated species can achieve greatness. The future was no longer uncertain. Humans had earned their place, and Elias had demonstrated that, through courage, intelligence, and heart, humanity could rise to meet the stars.